Imagine you're an archaeologist, right? You're digging deep in some limestone cave, brushing away thousands of years of packed dirt.
Oh, really? Getting your hands dirty in the trenches.
Exactly, yeah. And you uncover what looks, for all intents and purposes, like the world's oldest makeup kit. You find these carefully processed powders, vibrant reds, deep dark blacks.
Yeah.
And, I mean, the immediate assumption you make, right? It's for body art. It's for some kind of ritual. It's just early humans wanting to look good.
Right. I mean, it is the most comfortable human assumption we can make. We see a palette of colors, and our modern brains immediately jump to a painter's canvas or, cosmetic decoration.
Yeah, we just project our own habits onto them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that assumption relies heavily on the myth of the unrefined caveman, this idea that early humans were just fumbling around in the dark until they discovered self-expression. To really understand these people, we have to look past the art and start seeing them for what they actually were, which is highly capable applied chemists and materials engineers.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because our mission for this deep dive is to completely reframe how we look at prehistoric mineral pigments.
Oh, absolutely.
We are diving into a massive stack of archaeological evidence, ethnographic field studies, and actual in vivo experimental data, meaning tests done on living human skin, right?
Right. Actual clinical data.
To discover how things like red ochre and manganese weren't just decorative, they were highly sophisticated Paleolithic survival technologies. It was literal chemical armor.
It really was.
But to understand how rubbing red rock dust on your skin acts as a survival suit, we first have to talk about the most immediate, glaring threat our ancestors faced when they lost their body hair and stepped out onto the open African savannas.
The sun. I mean, when ancestral hominins transitioned from shaded forest canopies to open environments, their bare skin suddenly became the sole barrier between their internal biology and the cosmos.
And the sun is unforgiving.
Oh, sunlight in that context isn't just uncomfortable, it is a profound physiological threat. Long-wave UVA radiation penetrates and causes deep tissue damage, while medium-wave UVB triggers severe sunburns, immune suppression, and ultimately skin cancers.
So they needed a solution. Fast.
Right. So early humans turned to red ochre. From a chemical standpoint, we are talking about iron oxides, specifically iron-rich minerals called hematite and goethite.
And what's wild to me is the manufacturing process, because they didn't just, pick up a random red rock and start rubbing it on their arms. To get this right, you need microscopic precision.
You do, yeah. The archaeological record shows them taking raw nodules of hematite and aggressively crushing them, grinding them down against hard quartzite slabs.
Just brutal manual labor.
Oh, yeah. But they were also utilizing liquid suspensions. They would mix the crushed rock with water to separate the heavy, coarse quartz grains that would sink to the bottom.
Ah, like panning for gold?
Yeah, exactly like that, allowing them to skim off the lighter, ultrafine iron oxide clay suspended at the top. We are talking about prehistoric humans deliberately manufacturing powders with individual particles smaller than 2 micrometers.
I mean, that is smaller than a red blood cell.
It is incredibly fine.
And when modern researchers took this historically accurate microfine red ochre, mixed it with a traditional binder like animal fat, and actually tested it on living human skin, the results were staggering.
Yeah, the data is amazing.
It provided a sun protection factor, an SPF ranging from 4.5 up to 10.0.
Which is a highly significant level of protection, particularly when you factor in extreme climate events.
Yes.
To understand the real stakes of this chemistry, we have to look at a period known as the last Champ geomagnetic excursion.
Right, which happened around, 40,000 to 41,000 years ago.
Give or take, yeah. During this event, the Earth's magnetic field, the invisible shield that protects our atmosphere from solar and cosmic radiation, drastically weakened.
Basically, the Earth's magnetic shield dropped to a fraction of its normal strength.
Down to roughly a quarter of its normal capacity. Because of that weakened shield, the amount of solar-derived UV radiation reaching the Earth's surface surged by more than 25%.
Wow.
And in sub-Saharan Africa, where UV radiation exposure already regularly exceeds a very dangerous 250 watts per square meter, a 25% increase pushes that exposure well beyond 300 watts per square meter.
That's just a sunburn waiting to happen instantly.
It's an extreme immediate health crisis for any living creature exposed to the sky.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit. When we look at indigenous populations in sub-Saharan Africa today, they possess deeply melanin-rich skin.
Right.
In dermatology, it's classified as type IV skin, which naturally contains high amounts of melanin and provides an inherent natural SPF of around 3.5. So if you already have deeply pigmented skin that successfully protects against baseline UV damage, why go through the incredibly laborious, time-consuming process of mining, separating, and grinding rocks just to bump your SPF up from a 3.5 to an 8 or a 10?
That is the big question. And what's fascinating here is the unseen biological damage that UV radiation causes, specifically regarding a vital nutrient called folate, or vitamin B9.
Oh, folate, right.
Yeah, folate circulates in the tiny blood vessels just beneath the surface of the skin. When those blood vessels are bombarded by intense, unmitigated UV radiation, the folate is literally destroyed. It's called photodestruction.
And folate isn't just a random vitamin, it's the building block of life.
It is absolutely critical for cellular DNA repair, for embryonic development, and for male fertility.
So it's not just about getting a burn.
Exactly. An acute folate deficiency in a pregnant woman leads to severe neural tube defects in the baby. And in a wider population, it leads to a catastrophic drop in reproductive success. By grinding up hematite and creating this microfine physical barrier that reflects and scatters incoming radiation, they were doing far more than preventing a bad sunburn.
They were saving their DNA.
They're actively protecting the biological future of the species by keeping their folate levels intact.
It's blowing my mind because it connects directly to our lives today. The next time you go to the beach and you buy one of those expensive, reef-safe, physical sunscreens, the ones that leave that thick white cast on your skin.
Oh yeah, you can never quite rub them in.
Right. You are using the exact same principles of mineral light scattering. Modern chemistry uses zinc oxide or titanium dioxide to bounce the light away. Our ancestors mastered that exact same physical light scattering technology using iron oxides hundreds of thousands of years ago.
The mechanism is identical. Those microfine particles align tightly across the microscopic folds of your epidermis, acting like millions of tiny mirrors reflecting the UV rays before they can penetrate the living tissue.
That is just brilliant.
But protecting against the sun is really only one variable in the equation. A true survival suit needs to handle multiple simultaneous environmental threats.
Right, because if you're living in the prehistoric world, the sun is trying to kill you, the extreme temperatures are trying to kill you, and the microscopic world is definitely trying to kill you.
Without a doubt.
Surviving the Pleistocene wasn't just about dodging UV rays, it was about managing extreme environments on all fronts.
And we see brilliant ethnographic evidence of this versatility when we look at thermoregulation. In Australia, for instance, the Noongar people historically utilized a mixture called wilgi.
Wilgi, okay.
Yeah, which was a carefully prepared blend of dense animal fat and burnt clay or ochre. In the harsh, freezing winters, smearing that dense layer of fat and mineral powder across the body acted as vital windproof insulation.
Oh, so it keeps the heat in.
Exactly. It literally sealed the cold out and locked the body's radiant heat and moisture in.
But conversely, if you are hunting in a hot, low-latitude environment, wearing heavy animal hides for protection against the sun would cause you to overheat and dehydrate rapidly, right?
You'd pass out from heat stroke.
So instead of wearing a fur coat, you smear your body with a greasy layer of ochre. It acts as an artificial skin barrier that physically blocks the solar heating, but, and this is the genius part, it still allows for evaporative cooling. You can still sweat right through it.
It functions as a highly selective, semi-permeable barrier.
Wow.
And then we have to consider biological vectors. Biting arthropods, mosquitoes, ticks, lice.
Ugh, the worst part of being outdoors.
Well, in the Pleistocene, these weren't just itchy nuisances. They were the primary vectors for debilitating, often lethal pathogens.
Yeah, the experiments done with Aedes aegypti mosquitoes, the specific species that carries yellow fever, are wild. Researchers actually coated human skin in a historically accurate mixture of red ochre and clarified butter, and then exposed that skin to swarms of these mosquitoes.
Brave volunteers, by the way.
Oh, incredibly brave.
Yeah.
But it turns out this prehistoric mixture acts as an incredibly effective insect repellent through two completely different mechanisms.
Right.
First, it's just a physical barrier. The gritty mineral particles physically block the fine sensory structures on the mosquito's legs and mouth parts. They literally can't grip the skin, land, and pierce it properly.
That's like trying to bite through sandpaper.
Exactly. But the second mechanism is even cooler.
The olfactory mask.
Yes. To understand this, you have to know how mosquitoes hunt. They don't really see you, they smell you.
Yep.
They track the invisible plumes of lactic acid and carbon dioxide that naturally emanate from human skin and breath. But the lipid mineral mixture, the fat mixed with the ochre, chemically traps those volatile
It
compounds.
absorbs them.
Right. It stops the lactic acid from evaporating off your skin. It hides the exact chemical cues that mosquitoes use to find you. You are essentially wearing a chemical invisibility cloak.
It's incredible.
And obviously, if it hides your scent from a mosquito, it hides your scent from the giant Pleistocene megafauna you are trying to hunt. You can stalk downwind without your prey ever catching your scent.
And we even see extreme forms of chemical vector control in the archaeological record. Deep in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico, there are underwater cave systems like La Mina, which date back 10,000 to 12,000 years.
So, Ice Age era.
Exactly. Paleo-Indian divers intentionally navigated pitch-black, submerged tunnels to mine a very specific type of red ochre. When modern chemists ran high-tech chemical profiling on this specific Yucatan ochre, they found it had exceptionally high concentrations of arsenic.
Wait, arsenic?
Yes, we are talking approaching 4,000 parts per million.
Which is an incredibly toxic heavy metal.
Highly toxic if ingested, yeah. But arsenic is also an incredibly potent contact-active neurotoxin for arthropods.
Oh, wow. So they knew.
The archaeological context heavily suggests these Paleo-Indians weren't just risking their lives in underwater caves looking for pretty red paint. They were deliberately targeting a powerful, naturally occurring pesticide.
That is wild.
By applying this arsenic-laden pigment to their skin or treating their animal hides with it, they created a lethal chemical shield against ticks and lice in those dense tropical cave environments.
And this functional chemistry isn't just ancient history either. We can look at the modern Ovahimba women of Namibia who still process red ochre in a very similar way today. They grind the iron oxide up and mix it with milk-derived clarified butter to create a compound called oatjase.
Right.
A single woman requires about 60 grams of this red ochre powder to coat her hair and body every 2 to 3 days. And while this practice is deeply cultural, it signifies status and beauty, it perfectly preserves that enduring functional utility. It protects their skin from the sun, the wind, and the insects in a harsh desert environment.
It perfectly illustrates an incredible evolutionary loop. The aesthetic preferences, the desire to wear the vibrant red color for cultural reasons, and the actual survival utility reinforce one another over thousands of generations.
Yeah, they feed into each other.
Right. The individuals who engaged in the cultural practice of wearing the red pigment survived longer, had fewer miscarriages due to folate destruction, and contracted fewer vector-borne diseases. The tangible survival benefit cements the cultural practice.
It's so elegant. And if early humans possessed this deep functional understanding of how mineral organic mixtures interacted with their skin, it's a very short cognitive leap to realize they would start applying this chemistry to the world around them,
Oh, absolutely.
specifically to the tools they were holding in their hands.
This is exactly where we see the birth of materials engineering. During the Middle Stone Age, one of the greatest technological leaps was hafting, which is the ability to securely attach a sharp stone projectile point to a wooden shaft to make a spear.
And to do that, you need a really strong glue. When archaeologists look at Middle Stone Age stone tools from Rose Cottage and Sabudu caves in South Africa, they find this red ochre residue specifically concentrated on the bases of the stone points, the exact spot where the stone meets the wood.
Yeah, exactly, on the joint.
These early humans were making compound adhesives. They would take a natural plant resin like sticky acacia tree gum and mix it with fine-grained red ochre. But why go through the trouble of adding rock dust? Why not just use the sticky tree sap on its own?
Because pure plant resin is naturally hygroscopic.
Hygroscopic, meaning?
That means it absorbs moisture directly from the ambient air. If you are hunting in a humid environment or it starts to rain, pure resin will absorb that water, become soft, lose its structural grip, and your spearhead falls off.
That's a disaster on a hunt.
A complete disaster. Furthermore, when pure resin does dry completely, it becomes highly brittle. It shatters like glass on impact. By adding microfine ochre powder to the resin, the ochre acts as what material scientists call a loading agent.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I'm looking at this and thinking, couldn't they have just been painting the spears red for symbolic reasons? To make the weapons look intimidating or to symbolize the blood of the hunt?
It is a totally fair question. But the answer is found in the mechanical engineering of the bond. Different adhesive recipes were chosen for highly specific mechanical needs.
What do you mean?
Well, if you are hunting a certain type of animal, and you actually want the stone point to detach from the wooden shaft and stay embedded deep inside the fleeing animal to cause more internal damage, You would intentionally use an unloaded brittle resin.
Oh,
Yeah. But when you are manufacturing a thrusting spear, or a tool where the stone head absolutely must stay firmly attached to the shaft to survive repeated, heavy impacts, you use a loaded, ochre-rich adhesive.
okay, that makes sense.
The inert mineral filler of the ochre physically disperses the kinetic stress throughout the adhesive matrix. It literally stops microscopic cracks from spreading through the glue, making the bond incredibly tough. And crucially, it chemically alters the resin so it is no longer hygroscopic.
It waterproofs it.
It seals it against the humidity. It was deliberate structural engineering.
And the manufacturing process to get that glue to set was incredibly strict. Replication studies show that if you just let this ochre resin compound air dry, it takes 6 full days to set. Prehistoric hunters didn't have the luxury of waiting a week for their spears to dry.
No, they had to move.
So they developed a fire drying technique. They would cure the adhesive near an open hearth, which reduced the drying time to just 3 to 4 hours.
That's risky.
Extremely. It required intense dermal management. If you place the spear too close to the fire, the internal moisture in the resin boils, creates air bubbles, and the entire joint fails structurally. When they managed the heat perfectly, the adhesive cured with this very specific microscopic mud cracking pattern on the surface. They were literally controlling the curing temperature of complex polymers.
That profound understanding of chemical binders extends directly into prehistoric paint media as well. Right. We aren't just talking about mixing red dust and water and finger painting on a wall here.
Right.
At Blombo's cave in South Africa, dating back an astonishing 100,000 years, archaeologists uncovered complete paint manufacturing kits housed inside large abalone shells.
100,000 years ago.
Yeah. These kits contain a meticulously mixed compound of ground red ochre, heated mammal bone marrow to provide a specific fat content, and charcoal.
And jump forward to Sabudu Cave around 49,000 years ago, and the chemistry gets even more mind-boggling. They found a paint residue made by mixing fine-grained ochre with casein. Casein is the primary protein found in mammalian milk.
Right.
Because domestic cattle didn't exist in southern Africa back then, these Middle Stone Age hunters were intentionally extracting milk from wild, hunted bovids like eland or buffalo, specifically to use those milk proteins as a paint binder.
Which is an absolute stroke of chemical genius.
Mm.
On a molecular level, casein proteins unfurl and form a strong, flexible chemical complex with iron oxide particles.
It binds them together.
Exactly. It creates a highly stable liquid emulsion that adheres brilliantly to both human skin and cave walls without flaking off when it dries. It controls the viscosity of the fluid. That is, advanced fluid dynamics and organic chemistry dating back almost 50,000 years.
Now, while all this brilliant chemistry was happening in Africa, a completely different species of human was conducting their own specialized mineral experiments way up in Ice Age Europe.
Yes. At a site called Pech de la Zay in France, dated to about 51,400 years ago, excavations uncovered hundreds of small black blocks of a mineral called manganese dioxide, specifically in a crystalline form called pyrolusite.
Okay.
This is during the Mousterian archaeological era, which is the period defined by Neanderthal toolmaking and culture in Europe.
And for decades, archaeologists just looked at these black blocks of mineral and assumed they were black pigments for body art or drawing, right? Because they look like thick chunks of charcoal.
That was the running assumption, sure, but it poses an immediate logical puzzle. Neanderthals were habitual users of fire. They had endless amounts of soot and charcoal readily available at their hearths for zero energetic cost.
It's everywhere.
Right. Why would a Neanderthal invest the immense time, physical energy, and risk to hike out, locate a specific mineral deposit, mine it, and transport heavy blocks of manganese or back to a cave just to get a black color they already had for free?
Because they weren't using it for color at all.
Bingo.
They were grinding down this pyrolusite to act as a chemical catalyst. When you grind manganese dioxide into a fine powder and sprinkle it onto wood shavings or tinder, it radically lowers the auto-ignition temperature of the wood. It accelerates the rate of char combustion, making it significantly easier to start a fire in a freezing, damp, Ice Age environment.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this completely reframes our understanding of Neanderthal cognition. This isn't a simple, intuitive discovery. By all observable logic in nature, wood burns and rocks do not burn.
Right.
The idea to take a specific, non-combustible black rock, grind it up, and add it to your fire starting kit to make ignition easier is a massive cognitive leap.
It's essentially like carrying around prehistoric chemical lighter fluid.
Right.
You are hacking the chemical combustion process itself to bend nature to your will.
It proves that Neanderthals possessed an advanced, applied understanding of combustion chemistry. They were actively sourcing invisible chemical catalysts to master their environment.
So what does this all mean when we zoom out and look at the sheer scale of this deep time history? We can look at places like Twin Rivers Kopje in Zambia, going back 300,000 years, where early humans mined over 70 kilograms of specularite, this incredibly dense, glittering, metallic red iron ore.
That's a massive operation.
300,000 years of exploiting the unseen properties of these minerals. We've seen how our ancestors engineered these powders to block UV radiation and prevent catastrophic DNA damage, to physically and chemically cloak their scent from disease-carrying mosquitoes and ticks, to structurally bind the very weapons that kept them fed, and to act as catalysts to spark the fires that kept the ice at bay.
The overarching narrative here is that early human aesthetics, the vibrant paints, the colors, the body art, did not evolve in a vacuum of simple vanity. They were deeply rooted in harsh, uncompromising survival utilities.
It really makes you reflect on the deep time origins of our daily routines. The next time you spray on some SPF 50 sunscreen at the beach, or apply DEET bug spray before a hike in the woods, or even just put on your morning makeup to face the day, you aren't just participating in modern hygiene or fashion.
No, not at all.
You are actively participating in a 300,000-year-old tradition of evolutionary chemistry. We are still fundamentally just applying physical and chemical barriers to our skin to survive the world around us.
This raises an important question. We spent this entire deep dive looking back at how prehistoric humans literally engineered their cosmetics to survive changing climates, to weather a weakening magnetic field, and to fight off microscopic environmental threats. Looking forward, how might this synthetic chemical enhancements and the biological wearables we attach to our bodies today be quietly dictating the future trajectory of human evolution? Are we currently cementing the biological trace of the next epoch, just as they did?
That is an incredible thought to end on, because as we've learned today, the world's oldest makeup kit was never about vanity. It was, in every sense of the word, a high-tech survival suit.